Hello and welcome to Life Talk from Monday, August the 21st, 2017. I'm Mark Crutcher and we welcome you to the show.
And I'm Renee Hobbs. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Hope you guys all had a nice weekend. And you too, Renee.
Yes, had a very nice weekend.
Good.
Busy.
You didn't get in any kind of trouble this weekend?
No, normally
Kind
I
of
try to stay
boring
out of
weekend
trouble.
then,
Yeah, right.
Any weekend when you come in or if I talk to Tim and he says, no, Renee didn't get in any kind of trouble this weekend, I know you had a boring weekend.
Right. It's just not the same.
Right. Okay. I saw something on television. I guess it was Friday night. A pro-abort and a pro-lifer debating defunding of Planned Parenthood. But anyway, that wasn't the issue that I was looking at. But what I was reminded of is something that we've talked about here on the show a bunch, and that is we need to make sure that pro-lifers understand that the issue that we're grappling with is not abortion. Abortion is simply the mechanism by which the unborn child is killed. Mm-hmm. Our issue is not what people think about abortion, but what they think about the unborn child. Mm-hmm. That's the salient issue here.
Yeah, and that's the salient question that
Right.
people do not want to answer.
That's the one that people don't want to grapple with.
Right.
And I've mentioned before that we've seen people like Hillary Clinton, who, by the way, now has decided she wants to be a minister. I don't know how many people out there have seen
Crazy.
in this nonsense.
Hillary Clinton, Methodist pastor, minister, whatever.
You're going to go to her
right.
church, right?
Oh, definitely.
You're going to be there.
I'll be
front
yeah,
row.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
listening and hanging on to every word she has to say.
Hanging on to every word. But I've mentioned before that even people like Hillary Clinton will come out here and say that abortion's wrong. And she says, every abortion's a tragedy. And they're horrible, and I wouldn't recommend one. Mm-hmm. And I'm not pro-abortion, I'm just pro-choice and all this stuff. And when you center the issue on abortion, that's the out that you give them, because nobody will come out here and defend abortion.
Right.
And the question we need to be asking the Hillary Clintons of the world and her ilk, and that's what this pro-life person did not address that I watched on television the other night. I don't care. We need to say to these people, we don't care what you think about abortion. We don't care what your feelings are about abortion. We don't care what you feel about abortion. We don't care what your opinion on abortion is. What we want to know is, what is your opinion of the unborn child?
That's right.
Is the unborn child a living human being, or are they not?
Right.
Because if they are, mm-hmm. the abortion issue takes care of itself, mm-hmm. right?
That's right. Yeah, definitely.
It goes away
mm-hmm.
the moment you establish that the unborn child is a living human being, mm-hmm. and thus entitled to all the other rights that every other living human being has. Mm-hmm. The abortion issue goes away.
Yep.
But every time that we focus on abortion, which is what I saw on this show that I was watching the other night, the pro-abort had an escape plan. They came out and said, well, listen, I'm not in favor of abortion. I would never have an abortion. I wouldn't talk someone else into one, but I don't think I have a right to tell somebody else they can't have one. And so what they do is they create a stalemate in that regard. Mm-hmm. Somebody, again, should have gone back, this person that was on there, somebody I very much respect, but she should have gone back on there and said, listen, I'm not interested in what you think about abortion.
Yeah.
That's not the issue.
Right.
What do you think about the unborn child?
Right. Pin them to the wall and make them answer the question.
Right.
As what should happen.
Do you deny that the unborn child is a living human being? Mm-hmm. Do you deny all the biology, all the science, all the medicine mm-hmm. that says the unborn child is a living human being?
And we know all of that is on our side.
Is on our side. Yeah. And that's the reason that they want to keep the issue focused on abortion mm-hmm. and choice and women's rights and reproductive justice, which is the mm-hmm. new term for abortion, right. Reproductive justice.
Right.
But listen, I can't emphasize this to you enough, and we talk about this all the time, and I promise you we're going to talk about it again until I see the entire pro-life movement focus in when you're making this particular argument, especially with the pro-aborts or with one of your family members or something. The issue is not abortion. The issue is, what do you think about the unborn child? Are they living human beings or not? It's literally that simple. That's all you need to establish, is that they are living human beings.
Yeah.
And then you force them to say, but I think it's okay to kill them.
Right.
If you're gonna favor legalized abortion, once you get them to that precipice where you force them to say, yes, they're living human beings, Okay, then you think it's okay to kill a living human being.
Yeah, they have to fess up to the truth and how they
Right.
really feel and what they really feel about the unborn.
Right. And again, if you get them to that point, then you can say, okay, now let me ask you this. You concede that the unborn child's a living human being, but you still favor legalized abortion, so you say it should be okay to kill them. What other class of living human beings do you think it should be legal for one individual to kill?
None.
None. Why is it that you made a special set aside just for this one class of human beings? Why is that? I wonder if it has anything to do with political power and with financial remuneration. I wonder if it has anything to do with that.
I'm sure it has a whole lot to do with
It
that.
has everything to do with it.
Yeah.
But as long as you keep focusing on abortion, you're never going to get them to that point.
Right.
The issue is, what do you think about the unborn?
I agree.
Now, I want to talk about something here that I've never talked about before, and this is going to be a little controversial. You and I have had this discussion many times, and I think at some level you kind of disagree with me on this, but or at least take the counter position. And I've had other pro-lifers that I've talked to about this. They'll say, "Well, that's an interesting point, but I'm not sure I agree." That's fine. We don't.
It takes
have to
a
all
while to really think about the question and understand it. I think to
Right.
me.
You know, my background is in marketing, and one of the things that you have in marketing is when you're marketing a product, you have to make certain that what you're saying to the customer is the same thing that they're hearing. Very often, and you see this even in relationships with your husband. or your
Definitely,
wife.
husbands and wives or male and female.
Right.
We definitely hear differently.
Well, you and I have been in arguments before where I've said something and you heard something different.
Right.
Or you said something and I heard something different.
Right.
And I didn't like what you said, or sometimes you.
And I didn't like what you said
and
either.
you didn't like what I said.
How do you
either.
like that?
Right. I don't like it.
Okay.
But you have to be careful when you're marketing a product. And I'll give you a good example of this. I think I've given you this one before. I was in the auto industry when they first came out with extended warranties. And we were marketing extended warranties as a same thing for, like, you and Tim come in to buy a car, then you don't have to worry about it for a lot longer than the factory warranty. You can get all this extended coverage. And we thought it was a positive thing the way we were marketing it. And extended warranties did not sell in the beginning. And we actually had salesmen complaining, dealers complaining, that sometimes they'd bring up an extended warranty to a customer that they had already convinced to buy the car, and the customer then backed out. And so they were saying, we're not going to push extended warranties anymore if it's going to cause us to spend half a day with a customer and get them to convince that they want to buy this car and they like the car, and then all of a sudden you start talking to them about extended warranties and they leave. Why was that happening? And what we discovered was, through some research that we had done, that we were selling the extended warranty as a protective thing for you over the long haul, especially as cars got more expensive to work on. And some of these cars with these electronic devices on them, a little box under the hood that nobody even knows what it does, it can go out and cost you $2,000. So that was one of the motives behind extended warranties. That's not what the customer was hearing, though. What the customer was hearing is, this must be a trouble-prone car.
Right. I am buying something that's going to break down as soon as I drive it off the lot.
The guy that's selling me this car is telling me that this car not only has a high breakdown rate, but it's very expensive to work on when it does break down. I'm not even going to buy it. And they move on and buy something else.
Right.
So the message had to be changed, because what the auto industry was saying to the customer was not what the customer was hearing.
Right.
All right. I want to bring this up in the context of the personhood argument. The Roe versus Wade decision was based, they never denied that the unborn child was a living human being. They said it was not a person, therefore it did not have constitutional protections. Very much like the Dred Scott decision on slavery, they ruled that the slave was not a citizen.
Well, and they said that the baby was not a person because his organs or her organs weren't working properly.
Well, there were various justifications they gave for it. But the bottom line was, they were saying personhood is a legal definition, which it is, and they don't meet the legal definition for a person, so therefore they are not constitutionally protected. All right. So obviously, if the Supreme Court were to come back out here today and issue a ruling that the unborn child is a person, which they are, but if they were to come out and issue that ruling, then the abortion issue is over because they are protected by the Constitution. Well, from that, some people in the pro-life movement have concluded then that our argument needs to be that the unborn child's a person. I think there's a potential. I'm not saying that it does work this way, but I think there's a potential in this phenomenon where you can say one thing with the audience hears something different. I think there's the potential that when you argue that the unborn child is a person and therefore is entitled to have its life protected by the Constitution, you're conceding that the pro-abortion argument is correct, that if they're persons, they're protected, but if they're non-persons, they're not. Because in effect, you're arguing on that basis.
Right.
And my view is that the issue is not whether the unborn child's a person or not. That's a legal definition. And other people, in this case it was the Supreme Court, can bestow upon or withhold from that entity personhood. The Supreme Court has ruled, for example, that cities, an entire city, can be viewed as a person for the purposes of the Constitution. You've seen, and we've seen this deal where they're trying to give personhood to
Kiko and Tommy, a chimp and an orangutan or something
that
like
want to
that.
get married and have babies and live.
That's what you say.
Right.
And then there's also they were wanting to give personhood to a river in India.
Right.
To let the natural springs flow freely.
But if it's a person, if this river can be considered a person, then you have to let it alone to take its natural course.
Right.
So, in other words, again, personhood is something you can bestow upon or withhold from the unborn child, just like you can a river or Kiko and Tommy, the boyfriend, girlfriend, orangutan and chimp. It's a mixed marriage. I think, we need to look at that unequally yoked scriptural deal about these two.
They're definitely not equally yoked there.
Right, they're not. But anyway, and I think that's a dangerous argument to make. I think it has the potential to be a dangerous argument to make because you're conceding to the pro-aborts that they're operating on the right battlefield, and they're not.
Right.
The unborn child does not get its right to life on the basis of whether one human or a group of humans can consider them persons or not. That's not where the unborn child gets its right to life. Its right to life comes from the fact that it's a living human being created by God in His image. That's where it gets its right to life, not through this artificially created personhood. I'm not complaining. I'm not criticizing the people that are pushing this argument because I understand the argument, and they're exactly right. If the Supreme Court comes out and rules that the unborn child's a person, then the abortion battle goes away. Even Blackmun, who wrote Roe versus Wade, said that in his argument. He said if we ever decide that the unborn's a person, then Roe versus Wade becomes moot. So that's the origin of this personhood argument.
Right.
But I think that we're on shaky ground when we argue that our position is that they get their right to life based on whether they're persons or not. Because that's something that, and besides, if you say that they get their right to life from whether they're persons or not, and men can decide whether they're persons or not, then you could have a Supreme Court rule, yes, they're persons, and now abortion goes away. And then 20 years from now, another Supreme Court rules, no, they're not persons. That was badly decided, right? And take it away again, and we start all over again. But you'll never be able to take away the biological reality that they're living human beings.
Right.
And that has to be the basis upon which the abortion issue rests, is are they living human beings or are they not? And they are. All the biological realities are that. And let me tell you something. If you go back and you read Roe versus Wade and you look at how this thing came to the court, and it's a bizarre thing. It's a really bizarre situation. And but if you look at the way this thing was played out in the court or in the Supreme Court decision, it's clear that it was very arbitrary. They carefully avoided the question of whether they were humans or not and stuck strictly to the personhood argument, as if there's a distinction between a human being and a person. That's what they drew, that distinction, right? And when we argue on the personhood part, we're drawing that same distinction.
Right.
That's the danger as far as I can see.
Right.
And I just think
it was definitely purposely done.
it was definitely purposely done. And when you look at how you read it and you look at the history of it now that we know that we even didn't know then from Blackman. I mean, this man was I would say he's the American version of Adolf Hitler, but the problem is he's much worse than Adolf Hitler because he's killed exponentially more people. He's exponentially more dishonest, more heinous, more evil than Hitler. But he is the American version of Adolf Hitler. Was Harry Blackman. But even he agreed that if they're persons, you can't kill them. But oh, by the way, they're not persons.
Right.
I've decided that they're not persons.
Let me throw that in there.
So we can kill them by the millions.
Sure.
That's the danger that's the dangerous path we go down when we allow the pro-aborts to lure us over into this separated argument. And I would agree that I would say that the argument should have never been separated anyway. That the word personhood and the word living human being, the term living human being, should have never been seen as two different things, which is what they are now. I challenge anyone, get your best, biggest, most unabridged dictionary and find me a word in the English language for a human being who's not a person. Tell me what that word is. There is no such thing.
Yeah.
But the fact is, Roe versus Wade bifurcated those things, made them separate. And when we strictly argue on the personhood side, we're agreeing that they're separate. In effect, we're agreeing with that. And again, I think that that's a dangerous argument. I'm not saying the people that are making this argument agree with that. I'm thinking that they probably never thought about it.
Right. Just definitely something to think about.
But what I'm saying is, when the public hears this argument, and they hear the pro-aborts say they're not persons, and they hear us say they are persons, what the audience hears is that that's the issue that determines whether they have a right to life or not. Well, it's not.
Right.
The issue is, are they living human beings? Were they created by God? Were they created by God in His image? That's the answer, yes. And even from a scientific standpoint, you can't deny that they're human. You can't deny that they're human beings. There's no way. So
that professor at Princeton can.
Yeah, I know. Well,
they don't have morals
not until you decide.
Unless you decide to keep the baby, and then it has a moral.
Right. Yes.
Anyways, sorry,
we went over that on Friday, was it?
I don't know.
This nutcase from Princeton. If you didn't see that show, go back and watch it. It's
it's crazy.
The woman is literally stark raving nuts. I don't care what anybody says. This woman is nuts. How she got through graduate school, I'll never know. How she became a professor at Princeton, I'll never know. How she keeps her job at Princeton, I will never know. She is a nutcase. You and I could get in the car and go down to the town square here in Denton. There's some nutcases walking around down there. You know, there's some Looney Tunes walking around. But we could find 10 people smarter than her on that square right now.
Probably so.
We could find 10 people that would hear that argument that she made and break out in laughter. Just show them that video.
Right.
Right? So anyway, let's don't. Why did you bring that up again?
Thanks a lot, Renee.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Renee, for
You're
bringing
welcome.
that nitwit up again.
I know.
Anyway, that's our show. If you have anything you need to unload on us, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have a show based on something you send us. If we do, we'll send you a mug. We've talked to you about that before.
Yes.
Just send it to Renee. She's the one that goes over everything people send, and her information is on the screen right now, so you know how to get a hold of her. And even if you're one of Renee's creditors and she owes you a lot of money and she hadn't paid you and you hadn't seen her in years, now you know how to get a hold of her. Just give her a call. You can call her here even if you want to. You don't
Go for it.
There's nobody
There's nobody that wants my money.
that's looking for you. Oh, there's lots of people that want your money,
Oh, okay.
but not that you owe money to that
Right.
are looking for you.
That's right.
That's right. Okay, good. All right, that's it. You got
That's
anything?
it. Nope, that's it. You said it.
Got nothing else. All right. Well, until next time, remember, we're not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how the killing stops. We'll see you on Wednesday.